He's a degenerate gambler.
You are a smelly pirate hooker.
And he's cheaper than oxygen.
He's useless.
But somehow, they make it work. Jeremy Greene, Tank Spencer. There's no holding back in the Sportsocracy. Presented by Ingles Supermarkets and Fred Anderson Nissan of Asheville.
Welcome back into the Sportsocracy, third hour of the program here on a Wednesday afternoon. It is ESPN Asheville, 92.9 FM, 880 AM, 1400. Sportsocracy heard everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And, of course, you can see us, follow us live, comment with the show. On YouTube, just go to thesportsocracy.com, click that live video link, subscribe to the channel so you can get into the chat with us, and also get those alerts whenever we are live here in the studio, and have in your little feed all those little team-by-team 3-round mock draft videos pop up for you as you're missing us when we're not live here in the Ingles studio.
It's really ironic that I'm getting married just 2 weeks after the draft. It almost feels like that might have been a plan.
No.
Almost like we did that on purpose. Because then Jeremy is going to be scarce for a while.
So today in the daily draft, we do this at the top of the third hour of the program, most days. And today Jeremy wants to talk about the quarterback draft prospects from the last 6 years. It couldn't be 5 years. It had to be 6 years so he could get one specific guy mentioned in this little exercise.
Well, that's not actually why I did it. The reason I did it, and it was what I noticed as I was listening to PFF talk about this earlier today, was that 2 of those classes were duties. Mm-hmm. And that makes it really hard if you're going to go all the way to 12, which is what we do. So, I mean, did it work out nicely that there is a specific Lego fireman that I really want to talk about?
Maybe so.
But he would have been drafted. He would have been drafted early regardless.
Mm-hmm. Anyhow, let's get into it here. I have the first pick, which this is.
And I felt like that was an advantage for you because I have numeric grades for all of these guys. So It was real easy for me to just go back and go boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, but I also feel like picking first, you're at a disadvantage. Because, I mean, there are only so many at the very top you can get, and I would like to have 2 rather than 1. But I'll take the number 1 overall pick, the number 1 overall prospect since Andrew Luck. It's Trevor Lawrence.
No doubt. The highest-rated quarterback I've had in the time I've been doing this.
How many times did Jeremy have to scold me in 2021's draft process for saying can't miss prospect? I heard that over and over and over again, but he was the closest you'd ever seen.
Mm-hmm. He's the highest-rated quarterback I've ever had. And now the reason that we're doing this is the premise is basically if every quarterback that's been drafted in the last 6 years, this year included, were in the same draft, how would you have taken them going in? How are they as prospects? So for me, like Lamar Jackson's not even in the discussion because I didn't view him as quarterback. Mm-hmm. So it's not a revisionist history. It's as what they were valued as prospects. Trevor Lawrence, there is literally nothing. So the Godfather offer that the Panthers gave to the Chicago Bears, there was nothing that the Jacksonville Jaguars would even listen to.
No.
This is our guy. You don't have enough to get up here and get him. And that's kind of the point of this exercise. And he has served to be that. It took an extra year because he had Urban Meyer the first year. But he is that generational quarterback prospect. And now I want to ask you this. What's he worth? Let's say one of these teams goes rogue and just what would we give to make Jacksonville even acknowledge us? I've asked this question to a couple people around the league.
I would say 2 Pro Bowl level players and 3 first-rounders.
You get laughed out of the building.
Really?
Laughed out of the building. Starts at 5-1s and your best player.
Holy smokes. Okay.
One of them said it would be 8 first-rounders. So that's what hitting this actually means.
Right.
Because you've still got 2 more years of him on a rookie deal, plus that third-year option where he's going to be reasonably expensive, but not as expensive as he will be after that. So if you get this right, you're set up for half a decade. Now, you took what I feel to be the very obvious one, as Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to take what I value to be the second really obvious one, which is Joe Burrow.
Yes.
The Miami Dolphins, when Burrow was taken in 2020, the Dolphins, who had 5, offered them 5, 2 more ones, and a player, and Cincinnati laughed them out of the room. It was never discussed again. That became a really big trade talks like that, and I've learned this since we've been doing radio. Trade talks like that are almost like government documents. They become declassified after a while, and people will just tell you exactly what happened, mainly because most of those people have either been fired or moved on to other teams, and there's no loyalty left. Those are the 2 A-plus, no-doubt prospects we've had. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you got to the same conclusion I did. It's the only 2 we've had. It's the only 2 we've had in 6 years.
Yeah.
So over the course of the last 6 years, everything else has been guesswork to the highest degree.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you who your next one would be, but obviously I'm going to learn that when you pick, because I have a funny feeling my answer and yours are not the same.
Well, if it's your Lego fireman, it's not the same.
Nope. But I will tell you, he's not far off.
Okay.
It's Bryce Young.
Really?
Bryce Young is my 3. This is why I wanted to talk about this, because as I went down the rabbit hole, I started realizing I would not take Sam Darnold over him. I obviously wouldn't take CJ. I had questions about every other quarterback prospect to some point. The only question I have about Bryce Young is his size. Mm-hmm. And he is so smart on a football field and so good at avoiding hits, I'm not so sure I care. And as I went down it surprised me to a point. I knew he would be high, but all I did was pull my draft grades going into the draft, because I do all of the numeric ratings have been done for a minute with me. Mm-hmm. When I go in on draft night, I have them 1 to 300 in front of us. Bryce Young has the 3rd highest numeric grade I've given to a quarterback in the last 6 years. He has the 5th highest one I've ever given, period. And I feel like we touched on this in the first hour. I feel like we've gotten to a point where what he did on the field has become diminished. Mm-hmm. And it's all because of things that happened in his underwear. He only measured 5'10". Yeah, that didn't stop him from winning at Alabama. Didn't stop him from being a high-level quarterback in the closest thing to the NFL that we've ever had. Because I'm going to level with you. If the SEC broke loose and decided to start playing professional football, they would kill every team in the XFL. That's how bad the talent is and how much of the talent is reserved for the NFL.
Right.
That's how bad the talent pool is diluted.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so he won there, but you're telling me because, well, he's only 205 pounds. Well, CJ Stroud's only 10 pounds heavier. Drew Brees was smaller than that for 20 years in a much bigger, more violent, more physical league, and he was just fine.
Okay. All right, my next pick here in the daily draft, looking at the quarterback prospects since 2018. Again, this is not knowing what happens in the NFL. This is just strictly seeing them as they came out in college.
There's a name that if you don't say it, I'm going to call you a liar.
It's Tua Tagovailoa.
There it is. That's him telling the truth.
It's Tua Tagovailoa. I was so enamored with Tua. It was only because Joe Burrow had the record-breaking season that he had in 2020 that Tua wasn't still the number 1 quarterback available in that class. We heard all of the injury issues. The hip. He's had, he's been dinged up. He's missed games. The size is size matters. All of that. But still, if
people were taking a shot every time you use that phrase today, they'd be legally dead by now.
Mm-hmm. I think about the prospect and looking ahead to the 2020 draft. It was all tank for Tua. It was every team in the league is going to do their worst so they can try to get Tua. And then Joe, I don't want to say he came out of nowhere.
He came out of nowhere.
He did.
He came out of nowhere.
I mean, he was a transfer quarterback from Ohio State who had 1 year starting at LSU. Nobody could tell that the 2020 season was going to happen, that it was going to be that good. I remember saying on this program that I kind of like that kid from LSU. What's his name? Joe Burrow. Yeah, that's his name. That's how we were talking about him
here's the thing.
Into the 2020 season. Coming out of the 2020 season, it was, if you don't draft this guy number 1 overall, you're an idiot.
Yeah, here's the funny thing. He didn't have 1 year starting at LSU. He started for 2 years. And people forget that constantly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He started his junior year.
Oh, then you just said that strangely.
Okay.
Or I may have faded out for a minute.
Yeah, he had 1 year under his belt going into the season.
He played 28 games in college.
Right.
He was a completely different quarterback, though. He was a middling to bad quarterback his junior year. Shows up his senior year, and he was unbelievable. Unbelievable. But he was so good that it took away all of the – for me, it took away all of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm glad you said Tua, and I'm not going to lie. I set you up to do this.
Okay. That's
the other part of Bryce that irks me. Who's the number 1 receiver on that team?
On what team?
On Tua Tagovailoa's Alabama team. Who do you have to throw to?
Devontae Smith.
And?
The other one.
Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, thank you, Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, that's 2 high-level top 10 pick receivers in the NFL, right? Who's Bryce Young's number 1 receiver?
Jackson Smith and J-Boo.
Bryce Young's?
Oh, Bryce Young. I thought you said C.J. Stroud.
Did you have a stroke at some point in the last 12 minutes?
I think I did.
Okay. I also had Henry Ruggs, who we completely put out of our own minds.
Bryce Young's stud guy.
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
That's probably the best receiver
That's the
he had
best
on the
receiver
team.
he had. Jermaine Burton.
So I could say literally everything I say about Will Levis, except he was sitting behind a bad offensive line with Bryce Young, because they haven't had the high-level weapons. He had Jamison Williams for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then away he goes to the NFL, and it's a whole lot of Jermaine Burton. Yeah, he's still a high-level quarterback. Still almost took this team to the playoff with no weapons whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And a secondary that in large part let them down over the course of the year. I just don't get it. I don't really know what people want more. I was not as high on Tua as you were. I remember doing the draft show from the bunker.
I was crazy on Tua.
One of the days that I go back to and go, man, I'm glad less people listened to us when I said this. I told you I would take Justin Herbert over Tua Tagovailoa, and we went back and forth. And at the very end, I said, now, to be clear, I don't really like either one of them. Yeah, if I could take that out, the rest of that was just pure genius.
Right.
But I had Justin Herbert ahead of Tua Tagovailoa.
Mm-hmm. My third pick in today's daily draft will be coming up after the break, because I got to take a break. I got to think about this for a second, because I'm stuck on 2 names here. And I don't know if I want to do that thing where I just ruin Jeremy's chances to do this little experiment so he can have his guy, or should I take the other one? So I'll think about it during the break. We'll come back and talk past 6-year prospects at the quarterback position in the NFL draft next.
The Sportsocracy.
Pull up your pants, take off the bra, and be a man.
Welcome back into the Sportsocracy. We're in the midst of the daily draft here.
We got Tank a cookie in the break and a juice box, and he's back to normal now.
It's all good. It's all good.
I had a chocolate coaster because I'm trying to lose weight for my wedding. It was not wonderful.
A chocolate. Those things aren't that bad. I don't know why you call them that.
My flip-flop it has more moisture in it than that chocolate coaster does.
I'm going to say that's what a lie sounds like.
That's a granola. It's like a chocolate chunk granola. Ugh.
They're good.
I mean, they're fine. I wish it was covered in chocolate.
It was a kudos bar instead
but
of...
I think that kind of defeats the purpose. We put chocolate chips in it so it was edible.
Today's daily draft is talking about the quarterback prospects of the last 6 years, including this year, going back to 2018, where would we take these guys? Not knowing, this is not a hindsight is 2020 kind of a thing. This is going into the draft. Where would you have to take these guys if they were all in the same class and we were just looking at their college prospects or their pro prospects coming out of college? Obviously, Trevor was number 1. Joe Burrow's number 2. Then Jeremy goes Bryce Young at 3. And then I had to go Tua Tagovailoa because, to me it was Trevor, Joe, Tua. Those were the top 3 of the drafts that have already happened in the last few years.
Tua, just for posterity's sake, if you take out the guys in this class, was my 5.
Mm-hmm.
6, sorry.
He was your 6?
He was my 6.
Really?
Well, I've already told you I had Herbert ahead of him, and the rest of it I am not at liberty to discuss until you make another selection.
I did not. I did not have Justin Herbert ahead of Tua Tagovailoa that year. And I don't have Justin Herbert next on my list. I was not a big Justin Herbert fan coming out of college. I thought of all of those quarterbacks, or of the top 3 quarterbacks in that draft class, he was going to be the no doubt bust. Now, Justin Herbert is obviously the number 2 behind Joe Burrow, and Tua looks like the bust.
Depending on injuries.
Depending on how the health
If he's
goes.
healthy,
Right.
then he's fine.
Sure. So, my next pick here, I thought about ruining this little experiment for Jeremy, but I'm not going to.
Well, I have 3 quarterbacks that were all 3 rated almost exactly the same.
But I'm actually going to go down the path of the drum that I've been beating so far this offseason, this draft season.
You're going C.J. Stroud.
C.J. Stroud.
Wow.
He's my 3. Of the guys so I guess he's my 5 overall of the guys we're talking about. I do not feel like the talent difference is that great between C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. Do I like Bryce better? Yes.
He was my 8, just so we're clear.
But I feel like CJ is a good quarterback. He's got plenty of potential. And I think the Carolina Panthers will kick themselves if they don't do this.
You may very well be right. You made that much more difficult on me than I wanted it to be. Because, as I said, I have 3 here that I had very close to each other. So I'm going to take the one that was the most highly rated, which is Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Sam was going to be an absolute stud in this league. I'm still not sure that he won't be now that he's being coached by an actual NFL staff for the first time in 5 years. That was a shot at Matt Rule, not at the Panthers.
Right.
Stop adding me. Good Lord have mercy. And the other one, I just got to be honest, is Josh Allen.
I'm trying to rack my brain. I don't remember you being head over heels for Josh Allen.
Then you didn't pay a lot of attention because I was terrified that the Browns were taking Darnold at 1. And I liked Allen a lot. I had some reservation. I basically said the exact same things about Josh Allen that I'm saying about Will Levis now, of it could go fantastically. The Jets staff at the time really made me nervous. So I probably didn't wax poetic about it with the Jets because I was dead sold on Sam Darnold. But it was, for me, in that class, it was Sam 1, Josh Allen 2, 58 pounds of garbage, and then I would avoid Lamar, Baker Mayfield, and Josh Rosen with everything I had.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have served to be wrong on Lamar Jackson. The other 2, I will take my 66% winning percentage and go home.
All right, the last 2 picks of the daily draft for me. Look at the quarterback prospects from this year and the previous 5 years. It's Kyler Murray. He was the only thing. He was the only quarterback on the board in that 2019 draft. Daniel Jones went after him to the New York Giants, and we laughed.
Secret time? I didn't have Kyler Murray on my board.
The Washington Commanders, or excuse me, yeah. The Washington Commanders went Dwayne Haskins at 15, which we all laughed at hilariously. But Kyler Murray was the best guy of that class. And you look at the rest of the quarterbacks on here, I had him above pretty much all of the rest of them. And then my last pick's Justin Herbert. Because while I was not convinced that he was going to be great at the next level, again, I go, what's left?
I'm almost shocked that you didn't take Zach Wilson there because you liked him better than you liked Justin Herbert, from what I remember.
I may have, but I still wasn't sold on it. I mean, my biggest thing with him was always
just
BYU.
railed on Justin Herbert.
I did, because I thought he was overrated. I thought it was more of a Pac-12 thing, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, I was wrong. I'm a big man to admit when I'm wrong. But Zach Wilson, I didn't get it. I really didn't. I mean, he was good at BYU.
He had a big arm.
Great. Not real thrilled. Or I wasn't real thrilled about him. It was Trevor Lawrence, and then I'm not taking a quarterback in that class. Pretty much the same way 2019 was with Kyler Murray. If I'm drafting a quarterback, I got to get Kyler Murray. If I'm not, I'll just sit it out and I'll wait for another year to roll around.
All right, so that means I've got 2 picks here back-to-back?
Well, you got one. You got your – we usually just do 1 through 5.
What? Have we gone that far?
Yeah.
Oh, we have.
Yeah.
We have.
Yeah. I mean, we can do a UDFA if you want.
I do.
I do because I got 2 left.
I do. All right, I'll be legit here. Zach Wilson. He would be my 10. I've got 2 guys that were tied with him. I liked Zach's arm a lot. I still like Zach's arm. Unfortunately, he's got $1 million arm and a 10-cent brain, and a 10-cent work ethic, from what I've been told. That doesn't change the prospect that he was. A lot of people go back and bang on the Jets of, oh, yeah, how could you be so stupid? Yeah, let me be really honest with you. San Francisco called the Jets before they called Miami, and they were after Zach Wilson too. Mm-hmm. So this is not look how stupid the Jets are. No, there were a lot of teams that were lined up to do that. So does that mean I get my UDFA first?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to break your heart then because it's Sam Howell.
Should have known that was coming.
Yeah, and I only really did that because he's tied with another guy for me.
He was the only one left on my list. I did a top 10 list, and I went, if I get 5 of these guys, I'm going to be happy. Sam Howell was the last one that was on that list. If I got to go for a UDFA here, I mean, let's go with
path of least resistance. Don't forget there's a class that's not on the screen you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be Will Levis.
That's who it was for me.
I mean,
I said I had 2. Will Levis was the other one.
Yeah. Will Levis probably comes in at number 12 for me on the past 5 years. Strongly considered someone else there, but
who's the someone else?
You couldn't. No, I mean, like anyone. I'm looking for someone. I'm
anyone else.
With anyone else.
Can I say any name here that's not Will Levis?
No, nobody showed up.
Trey Lance was the only other name on my list.
See, and you talked me into Trey Lance. You showed me all the film on Trey Lance, showed me all the good things, and I went, yeah, that's pretty good. And I always had one big thing about him. I would never touch him with a 10-foot pole. And it's not just because of, well, he went to North Dakota State. I get it. There have been good quarterbacks that come out of schools like that before. Mm-hmm. It was the fact that he didn't have any experience. I mean,
he
started 7 games. Right. It was not good. So I never would have gotten there with him. All right. So, Jeremy, you got Sam Darnold mentioned on the program today. Congratulations by you.
That worked nicely. That worked exactly how I wanted it to.
Indeed, the Draftmas season continues to roll on here in the Sportsocracy. Don't forget, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to have 3-round mock drafts, team by team, in the draft order, coming out over the coming days here in the Sportsocracy. So all of Jeremy's prognostications of who you need to have, who your team needs to have, in the first 3 rounds of the NFL Draft coming your way on the YouTube channel.
It's also the trade miss season. And after the break, we'll talk about some names that are bouncing around the NFL.